sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice. Oh, let us all Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed. Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice. Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to you, everybody. How's everybody doing? The 14th day of July, year of our Lord, 2024. We already got the fight going on. My shirt is not gray. This is a lighter blue, kind of a turquoisey blue. Some of you need help. I'm telling you, last week we had the Battle of the Blue Shirts all week, and I was talking to a family member, my sister per se, last night, and she randomly said, by the way, your shirt was blue. And I said, everybody said it was gray. She said, no, it was blue. I saw it, and compared to the blue on the background behind you, it was blue. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the Blue Shirt Monday is declared. Good to have you here. If you're not wearing a blue shirt, you probably don't know Jesus and don't love America. I'm just saying, I'm wearing a blue shirt. Good to have all of you here on the program. Stacy jumps in here early on, throwing the first punch. Good morning, waving the white flag, apologizing for starting the gray blue shirt rebellion last week. Plus, on the show Friday, if you guys said I was a cougar Friday, I'm younger than Jimmy. Sorry for did we call Stacy a cougar? I don't recall. We call lots of people names on this show, usually me. Anyway, I don't know. It's a bluish shirt today, and I had other confirmation that the shirts I wore last week all had shades of blue in them. So stuff it. That's all I can tell you. Anyway, good morning. The 14th day of July, year of our Lord, 2024. Here we go. Another week. Friday will be here before you know it. Everybody link hands, join together. We will sing Kumbaya and march forward merrily down the week of the calendar, and halfway through July already. Man, this year is just zipping by. Good morning, Jimmy and producer Chad from AR. That ain't a gun, my friends. That stands for Arkansas. I know my abbreviations. If it said AK, we'd be in Alaska. I think we would be. Anyway, good to have all of you here on the program. Coming up, I want to get into the... did I say 2025? 2024? I don't know what year it is half the time. Earlier today, I tried to write down 2017, so something is definitely short-circuited in the mind. It was a weekend of travel, and after the travel experience of getting to Dallas last week, which was 11 or 12-hour journey, I got home yesterday a little bit more promptly. That was much better. Had dinner with producer Chad last night. He made some butter chicken. I'm going to call him Chad. Producer Patel is his new name. He made some great Indian food last night. So producer Patel is behind the curtain over there, making stuff pop up on the screen. All right, good to have you. ICE raids in California. The left is going crazy. Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles, said they're going to give money out to all these illegals that have been affected by these ICE raids. If you've been traumatized, line up in LA. You got $1 billion of debt out there, but you're going to get free money from Karen Bass. Sorry. You're going to get free money from Karen Bass out in LA just because you don't like ICE. So sign up with Karen. She's going to be giving you some money out there. Did you hear that 14 children were rescued? Remember, Joe Biden lost 300,000 kids. Just disappeared. Don't know where they're at. They came across the border, and some guy named Pablo said, hey, that is my child there. That's my nephew, little nephew. Come here. And they let him into the interior of the country. 300,000 children were trafficked by trafficked by Joe Biden and his cohorts with an open border. And they rescued 14 of them at a cannabis farm in California in a raid there. 364 arrests, and there were 13, 14 children that were there that had been trafficked and being abused and working and things. So save the children. But Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom don't give a rat's ass about the children. The only way to make them happier, besides knowing that they were trafficked in slave labor at the cannabis farm, is probably if they could have been aborted and never been born. That would have made them real jolly there as Democrats. They always love it. They always, after a school shooting, they cry about the kids. But, they would have been celebrating the freedom of choice to execute the child had the child been removed from the womb with a suction cup and a vacuum. right out of there. That the Democrats would celebrate that as a choice. Instead, sometimes say it's a tragedy. Rather than celebrating the ending of the tragedy of these children being saved, they think the tragedy is that these illegals have been are being deported out of this country. And by the way, did you hear the bad hombres? They're really not some good hombres there at that farm. There was a child molester, rapist. I mean, all sorts of bad hombres there. But the left can't. We'll give you money if you'll stay here. We want the chomos here. That's what they want. The Democrats, modern Democrat Party. They're your people. It's your Karen Bass. Don't say that. I get tired of well, that's the extreme of the Democrat Party. Is there anything that's not extreme about the Democrat Party today? I mean, you used to be able to say, well, those are the fringe nuts like AOC and Jasmine Crockett. See the poll out of Texas? Jasmine Crockett is the leading Democrat candidate when they surveyed dumb Democrats in Texas, that she should be their U.S. Senate candidate in the next election cycle. You can no longer say that there's some great, nice, moderate Democrats out there. They're not. Their whole party has been taken over by AOC and Jasmine Crockett. Gavin Newsom jumps right in there. Chuck Schumer jumps right in there. You have a Marxist, an Islamicist that wants to be the mayor of New York City, and even what's a Nadal, a big fat guy. They're all endorsing this guy. So it's really not plausible to say that these are the extremists in the Democrat Party, even those that you would say were more mainstream and or forefathers and or godfathers and or parents or the father and mother figures of the Democrat Party are endorsing the kinds of policies that come forth by Jasmine Crockett and AOC. So we'll talk more about that. Brian Reisinger going to be on the show. He's written a book called Land Rich, Cash Poor. We've had Brian on before, and Brian is going to talk about some of these illegals and some of these raids and how they're affecting the agricultural community. Is it a problem? Well, a couple of weeks ago, President Trump said maybe they'll go back in. And if a farmer wants to vouch for an illegal or a worker and say, hey, they can come here, they're going to work out a plan. But we'll talk about that with Brian Reisinger coming up on the program. July the 13th was yesterday, the anniversary, the commemoration of what almost was probably one of the most tragic things in American history had it succeeded, and that would have been the online live television assassination of a bullet decapitation of Donald J. Trump. And that was attempted 1 year ago yesterday in Butler, Pennsylvania. And it is amazing to me how we still don't know much about this shooter. Now, the Government Accounting Office, the GAO, the Inspector General or whoever, came out with a report over the weekend and kind of an anniversary of the shooting and said, here's what we know. And there were mistakes made by the Secret Service, blamed it all on the Secret Service. I got a couple of questions about this. Some random questions. What questions come to your mind? First question is, by the way, Craig jumps in on YouTube and he's showing off here. Good morning, Jimmy. Listening to you from a beach in Puerto Penasco, Mexico. Hola, Craig. How are you? Jaime Lagos, you, Craig. Yeah. By the way, Christy Nome, if you think I'm here illegally, arrest me. Cuff me. Christy, I'm available. If you need to arrest me, I'm ready. Linda says, butter chicken, do tell. Oh, yeah, Producer Patel's kicking ass on the butter chicken. I had some buttered chicken with producer Chad, and we had some naan bread, and as opposed to not naan bread, we had naan bread. I like the name of that. Liv jumps in and says, also, any word on the Epstein list? Liv, be patient. We're going to get to the Epstein list here in just a moment. But let's dive through this Government Accounting Office report on what happened on July the 13th. I found it very interesting that they released this report and they say the Secret Service was bad. Let me read the main points as I have here on my show sheet here. Main points: failure to implement security measures. The Secret Service did not put in place security protocols that could have prevented the attempt on Trump's life. A very vague statement there, but basically you didn't do what you need to do to prevent it. You weren't doing a good job. Poor planning and communication breakdowns. This report says there was inadequate planning for the event, major communication mishaps, and insufficient operational guidance for agents at the rally. So no one knew what they were doing. Everybody just showed up like I guess workers at a circus and said, well, here comes P.T. Barnum up on the stage. And they just didn't do anything. What a horrible group of people that failed that. Insufficient training many agents tactical adequate training was inadequate. Preparation for the high-risk events was inadequate. Here's another one. Threat information not shared. Now, this is the one that jumps off the page for me, because we have this guy that supposedly had some job at a nursing home, like emptying trash cans and bedpans and something like that. He was not necessarily a he wasn't a white collar worker. Let's say that he no problem with wearing a name on your shirt, but he had a name on a shirt and probably no one cared what his name was. I mean, he was an irrelevant worker at a nursing home. And it says Secret Service officials were aware of a classified threat to Trump as early as 10 days before the rally. But this information was not shared with agents on the ground or local law enforcement due to a siloed practice for handling classified intelligence. The advance team and the site agent were unaware of the threat, which directly impacted the request for additional resources to take on extra precautions. Now, I have a question. How did the intelligence community, if this is a true report, how did the intelligence community pick up on intelligence? How did they hear rumbling out there that there was going to be an assassination attempt on President Donald J. Trump's life if this shooter that they mysteriously shoved off that ceiling, that roof, they hosed it down that very day, didn't preserve the crime scene? Within 2 or 3 days, the kid was cremated. He was gone. The little devil had gone back to ashes. So, how is it that they got, if this was just this kid that worked in a nursing home and emptied bedpans, and he was just kind of on a mission to go shoot the president because of whatever, how is it that they missed intelligence? Where was that intelligence at? Was he chattering about it? Was there someone else aware of it? Some people think that he had multiple phones for a reason. When they say that they missed intelligence about the shooting and did not pass it down the pike, you have to ask yourself, well, who? Well, I thought this kid was a lone gunman. I thought this kid had no affiliations. It sounded as if this kid was a loner and didn't speak to anyone, didn't talk to anyone, didn't have any friends. Where was this information that they say they missed? They could have picked it up if they would have reported that they had a credible threat on the Trump assassination attempt, but they never told anybody about it. Well, who did this guy tell about it? I'm just very curious about it. Who did he tell about it? Who did this guy tell about it? That jumped off the page at me like nothing, because you have to say if they had intelligence report, they had to have other people talking about it or chattering about it. Other people had to know something was coming, and that goes against a narrative that this guy was just a lone guy up on a rooftop and he had nothing to do with anybody. No, nothing to see here. We're going to hose his bloody brains off the roof when they shoot him, and we're going to, nobody knew. Parents had no idea. Nobody's going to get interviewed. He was just a lone wolf. Well, if he was just a lone wolf, he wasn't too lone. If there was some intelligence out there or some chatter 10 days before that something might be going down. So that one jumps off the page for me. And I think what bothers me is, why did it take the Government Accounting Office 1 full year to give you this report? It's kind of like the JFK assassination report. It took 60 years for us to be told the truth about what happened against John F. Kennedy that fateful day in Dallas. And we find out that all the conspiracy theories were true, and that it was a CIA op and military intelligence. It was a coup attempt that happened in 1963 in Dallas, Texas. We took 60 years for America to come clean. And here you have a real baseline report that's nothing really all that detailed, and it took a year for that to come out. So now the government has another 59 years, it seems as if, to get their story straight and spin the narrative up so that we can learn later on that there was something more going on. But anytime they tell you this guy knew nothing, he had, well, what about the cell phones? No comment about all those multiple cell phones. No comments about the rumors that were out there that his cell phones had actually been pinged near government offices in Virginia and some other places. No comment on that. There's nothing to see. He's just a lone wolf. We're going to cremate his body. There's going to be no autopsy. Parents aren't going to be interviewed. Nothing's going to happen. He knew nothing. He said nothing. He just happened to show up there that day and took a shot at the president. Well, how come the Government Accounting Office gives a report and says they had intelligence about something going on, and they didn't do anything? They didn't report it, and therefore they were kind of caught with their pants down. They knew something was coming up. And if this kid was really the lone wolf, this demon was really the lone wolf that they say he is and say he was, then that doesn't match the story that they had missed intelligence, because intelligence would tell you that they had picked up some chatter, they had picked up some fodder, they had picked up some signals, they had information that someone wasn't just sitting alone around alone in their bedroom as a 19, 20, 22-year-old kid or whatever he was, wasn't just sitting around plotting it in his head. There had to be some kind of communication. So let that one jump off the page at you. Communication failures at the event. Secret Service officers experienced limited cell phone service during the rally, hampering real-time coordination. They said the drone was not flying that day because it was broken, and the drone, the operator they had to do, new drone, had 1 hour of training on it, so he wasn't any good. Resource and equipment shortcomings. Agency lacked functioning surveillance drones, assigned inexperienced personnel to operate the drones, and the site agent in charge was new to the role, overseeing her very first large outdoor event on that day. So it's just fascinating that, first of all, they say there was intelligence chatter out there that said there was a possible of an assassination attempt at that event, and yet we were told that the guy who carried out the assassination attempt was a lone wolf. Nothing to see here, nothing to talk about. What say you, my friends? And why do you think it took him a year to get this little report out? This is not a detailed report. This is not any kind of earth-shattering report. This is the Government Accounting Office assassination attempt report, and they say there were just some critical failures by the U.S. Secret Service. And by the way, the only person that ever got fired from the Secret Service, disciplined permanently from the Secret Service, is Miss Cheadle. Remember Miss Cheadle, the little lady that stood there and made an ass of herself in congressional testimony right afterwards? And Democrats and Republicans said she had to go. She had no qualifications to do what she was doing, except that she used to be a security guard for Soda Pops and Pepsi, and she was a security guard there for the Pepsi Corporation, and she became Jill Biden's personal Secret Service agent, and Jill liked her when she was the vice president. They were the vice president in the vice president's house, and so Jill said, let's make her in charge of the Secret Service. And so here you have another idiot that the Bidens had appointed. You have this doctor who's basically part of the business dealings of Joe Biden. He's pleading the fifth. He can't tell you anything about Joe Biden. They had this Miss Cheadle that was an incompetent boob showing up there. She should have been guarding the Diet Pepsis again, but instead she was guarding the president. She was there. It was just, you've got Ketanji Brown Jackson. You got all these women that the Biden seemingly had hired that seemingly, I think arguably, not arguably, they're incompetents. And they got jobs because Jill Biden and Joe Biden hired them, and you almost lost Donald Trump. So anybody give me your thoughts on the Government Accounting Office report and what jumped off the page at you? We knew there were operational failures. We knew the Secret Service sucked at this thing, and we knew that they really did some bad things. But when they say that there was operational chatter out there and that there were some hints that this may be coming down the pipe and nobody reported it, that goes against the story that this guy was just a lone wolf and he had no coordination and no collaboration and no communication with anybody else. That's not what the story we've been told. But again, the government lied 60 years about the JFK assassination. Can you really trust them when it comes to the attempts on Donald J. Trump's life, especially since the government and the swamp doesn't really like Donald J. Trump? So there's a lot more to it. And by the way, nobody ever got fired or suspended except Cheadle. Some people got suspended with pay for 20, 30 days. That happened back in February, but that's it. That's all that happened. So if you've read the GAO report on the assassination attempt, July 13th, what went through your mind, and did anything jump off the page for you? All right, unrelated to politics and news, and yes, we're going to get to the Epstein list, and we'll get to some other things. I've got some interesting information for you. A study has found that even when you're retired, you hate Mondays. Mondays are hardwired into us that we're supposed to know that Mondays just suck. A new study finds that people just keep on hating Monday even when we're no longer working. Researchers tested people's hair to see how much stress hormone and cortisol they had been producing. The ones who said Monday is the hardest day, the worst day, it was the most stressful day of the week, had 23% more cortisol coursing through their veins. Too much of it, that you get weight gain, heart disease, etc. The crazy part is even those people who are retired, they said Monday was the most stressful day for them, and they also had the increased cortisol in their strands of hair. So when you've spent most of your life stressing about a day of the week, work, school, and the start of a new week, it's tough to shake. Evidently, you can't get rid of the feeling that Monday is ominous and Monday is a bad day. So if you hate Mondays now, I think it's a glorious day the Lord has made. If you hate Mondays now, then there's a good chance you're going to hate them in your 70s and 80s and beyond. It brings up a real simple question of the day for you, whether you work or not. What is your least favorite day of the week? What is your least favorite day of the week? Is Monday the real least favorite day for many of you? Do you hate Mondays? You know, a harder day for me sometimes is Sunday. I love Sundays. A glorious day the Lord has made, the Lord's day. You go to church and all the fun stuff you do on Sunday. But by Sunday evening, what do they call it? The Sunday slumps or something? There's a name for it. There's a whole thing that people start getting a little anxiety on Sunday night, knowing they have to go back to work on Monday. Once they get back to work on Monday, a lot of folks find it, well, it's not as bad as I thought. But by Sunday, a lot of people get those Sunday shakes and they're like, oh, God, I got to go back to work. And they get panic attacks. So what is your least favorite day of the week? And if it's not a Monday, what is it? Is it that Sunday evening? And, Sundays are great. But I remember when I was doing the corporate radio gig, Sunday night, you're going, crap, I got to get back in there and deal with psychos, producers, and all these people I got to deal with. I can't do this anymore. And fortunately, I don't do that anymore. That's a blessing in and of itself. But I have to ask you, which day is it that is the least favorite day for you? Jeff's got a couple of comments churning in the Facebook chat room. He says, Wednesday, hump day doesn't quite live up to its name. That's not my business, okay? That's a little bit TMI, Jeff. If hump day is not humping for you, you need to talk to somebody else. Jeff also has another comment. It says, comedy of errors, really? The Secret Service sent in the DEI team all the way to the sniper protection. It's way too convenient. Listen, when you're built like Miss Cheeto was, it's hard to get on those sloped roofs, isn't it? It's a water right back down. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. But yeah, it's just fascinating to me that they said there was intelligence. We had intelligence chatter that things were about to happen, and things did happen, but we didn't share anybody. And I'm like, well, you told us all this time that there was nothing else to investigate. There were no other platforms. This guy was not collaborating. He wasn't conversing. He just was a lone wolf. That's the picture they have portrayed for you. And yet by reading the GAO report, you'd find out he was not plotting by himself. He was plotting in full visibility, so much so that on some kind of platforms or cell phones or chat rooms or something, he left some kind of a footprint or a fingerprint behind. And they knew that there was a credible threat in Butler, Pennsylvania. So I call BS on the GAO report. And again, remember, this is the same government. These are the same bureaucrats. These are the same politicians that lied for 60 years about the assassination of John F. Kennedy Jr. because they did not want you to know what really happened. And it took a generation or so for that to actually come out. So I don't buy it, the GAO report. It's nice. It's convenient that it comes out on the 1 year anniversary. But, I don't need you to reports that deem about life and death. I don't need you to, we got a whole year. We got to release it on the anniversary. No, there's probably some things that we should have been knowing all along that we haven't been told. So anyway, if you believe the government accounting office report, or if there's something that jumps off the page that you've jumped in there, but any of you have any intelligence, tell me how you had chatter that there was a credible threat and didn't report that to anyone when all along you said this kid was not chattering with anybody. He wasn't conversing with anybody. All right, we'll get to that story further throughout the course of the morning. 1 year anniversary, and can you imagine, and I don't want to, but can you imagine what this day would have been like and what our country would be like right now? Would our country even still be somewhat together had that assassination attempt been successful? So there's a lot more questions about the assassination attempt that I think we're getting answers to, and I hope that people will continue to push it. I'm not sure anybody is continuing to push it, but sometimes you have to realize our government is prone to secrecy. Our government is prone to hiding things from us, and we have to make sure that we don't allow that to happen. One of the things that's been controversial the last few days is this right here. It's been the release of the Epstein files. Said it was having with Chef Patel or producer Patel, Chad's name for the day. The Epstein files. Some neighbors of his came by and immediately started talking about the Epstein files. Oh, by the way, let's just jump to the chat room here as well. YouTube, Ray jumps in. He says, I wonder if the head of the Secret Service slow-rolled the info to the field agents. A great question, Ray. There's a lot more questions in this report than what we actually have, than what we actually know. There's just something that's not right here. And again, when we've been lied to for a full year that this was a lone wolf, and now we find out, no, there was credible chatter, and we didn't do anything about it. You know, the media, they're lying to you somehow. They're in the government. Well, is the government also lying about the Epstein files? A lot of folks say yes. They say, yeah, it's not looking good. There must be some Epstein files out there, some bad boys, some bad hombres out there doing some bad things, and we don't seem to know about it. Well, after the show on Friday, it seems as if Dan Bongino was reported MIA from his office. Evidently, he and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, earlier in the week had gotten into a shouting match or a name-calling match, and let's say a harsh disagreement in which Bongino was told sources that either he's going to leave or Bondi's going to leave, but he doesn't like the way this has been handled. And then there was Friday afternoon rumors that Kash Patel was circulating that if Bongino leaves as his assistant, then Kash Patel himself may leave, everybody pointing back to Pam Bondi. What say you? Pam Bondi, in my estimation, has really screwed this thing up. If Pam Bondi thought that some misinformation or there was not the information that she thought was there are ways that she could have handled this. But last weekend, 1 week ago, Pam Bondi or someone at the Department of Justice and the FBI put out a memo that said there's no evidence, there's nothing to see here, move right along, and they gaslit everybody after years and months of knowing that there's something to see here. So I want to come back to this topic because I think this could be a critical topic for the future success of the Trump administration. And, you know, a lot of people say Trump's playing 3D chess or something going on. Maybe he is. He has a reputation for that. But there's also a chance that Donald Trump is just deceived in the fact that he doesn't realize how important it is. I've got another example about something that took a while for Donald Trump to realize that he needed to stop doing because people were not buying it. And it probably, had he kept doing what I'm going to tell you in the next later in the show, if he kept doing it, I think he would not have necessarily been the nominee. But he stopped doing it. He got his heart right. He got his head right. And he got off this topic. And I think this is a topic, this Epstein file, that he's now trying to say, nothing to see here. We got other important things to do, to talk about. He said in that White House press cabinet meeting, press hit, I think he's missing the mark here. And I think this is a blunder by the Trump administration. So we're going to watch it all day. Is there a Bongino sighting? Supposedly Trump is siding with Bongino. He's also siding with Bondi. He's trying to keep peace on earth, goodwill towards men. But we shall see exactly how this plays out. And I'm sure we'll know more probably in the next several hours today. Did Bongino go back to work today? Or the Epstein files continuing to backlash inside the administration? General Michael Flynn put out a statement. I'll get to that here in just a bit. He put out a Twitter that he directed right towards President Trump and said, President Trump, this is not going away, and that the Epstein files are something you're going to have to deal with, and you're going to have to deal with it post-haste. You cannot brush this away. You cannot say it didn't exist. So, and we'll come back to all that here in just a minute. Again, question of the day, what is your least favorite day of the week? Survey says people who say Monday is their least favorite day, when they sample their hair, they have 23% higher cortisol, which is a stress hormone in their hair that circulates than anybody else. So I have to ask you the question, do you have a favorite or least favorite day of the week? Jeff says he doesn't like hump day. A lot of folks I know don't like Sundays, especially Sunday evenings, because the stress of going back to the workplace starts to kick in. So everybody give me your thoughts on your favorite or least favorite day of the week. Love to hear from you. Is it Monday? Are you a Monday hater? If so, I hope we're making your Monday a little bit better. All right, let me bring into the program our first guest of the morning. We'll come back to the Jeffrey Epstein comments here in just a moment. But I bring into to the program Brian Reisinger. He's an author of a book called Land Rich, Cash Poor. Done a couple of interviews with him and his family farming experience and the plight of the American farmer. Bring him in today to not just talk the plight of the American farmer, but let's tie that into ICE raids and illegal immigration, and even the raids that took place over the weekend at the cannabis farm in California. Ladies and gentlemen, Land Rich, Cash Poor author Brian Reisinger back on the horn. Hello, Brian. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Jimmy. It's good to be with you.
Well, let's dive in here. I want to get to the raid yesterday that happened in California. 300 and something people arrested, the illegals. 14 children rescued from child trafficking. Very important that happens. But let me go back a week or so ago. President Trump said he was getting some kickback from farmers out there saying, hey, these ICE raids, this deportation, I got somebody out there picking the crops. They're good workers. And then I heard Trump say that he was going to let the farmers kind of help pick and find out who got to come back, or if they had workers they wanted, that they were going to work out some kind of program. Give us the latest, these ICE deportations and raids. What are you hearing from the mainstream American farmer out there? And is there some kind of, are the workers that are being deported being offset by Americans?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a really crucial one. You know, when I talk to farmers in rural communities, farm communities all across the country, there are so many people who support securing our border. In many cases, that's one of the reasons that they supported President Trump. And a lot of President Trump's support, of course, came from rural America. They also know that immigration does have something to do with our workforce for picking our food. And so they see both. Farm I grew up on didn't have immigrant labor, but a lot of farmers around us did. And it's very common when you get out into California, to the point of that ICE raid, with hand-picked vegetables, fruits, and other produce. And so farmers are kind of caught in the middle, and they want to find a way to try to help secure the border while still having the workforce that they need. You see the Trump administration right now with what the president is saying. They're taking obviously very strong action, very, very concerted effort to secure the border. And you also see the president trying to find a way forward for farmers to be able to have input into how they can make sure they have a good legal workforce through the course of that. So that's what you're seeing right now, is those winds blowing.
President Trump said he was going to put a lot of the onus back on the farmer. Is there an official program yet that if you have a farm in, let's say, Iowa, and you have some great workers that got shipped off to somewhere out of the country, is there a way that you can say, hey, I'm the farmer and I want them back? Or is there an official program yet?
That's what farmers are waiting and hoping for. There are ways that farms are supposed to be able to verify the legality of their labor and so on. But the issue that we have is that it has been so twisted and mangled and kind of concealed by the cartels. And that goes back to that California raid as well. The cartels are trafficking not only in drugs, but also in people and children, as you mentioned. And so when people come over, they often have been moved through by cartels, coyotes, who have a whole cottage industry around coming up with fake documentation and other things. So the whole situation is very muddled. It's hard for farms in many cases to know whether they've got legal labor or not because of that. So what we need to do is we need to have a series of policies where they secure the border, where we have H-2A visa programs and other temporary work programs that are being utilized properly and robustly enough so that we can have legal workforce here. And we need to have increased transparency, and hopefully the cracking down on the cartels as part of securing the border can help with that.
The voice of Brian Reisinger. If you're watching live, you see his name on the screen. If you're not, if you're listening later on the podcast version of the show, the audio only, you're hearing the voice of Brian Reisinger. Again, by the end of the day, between views and ear holes that listen to the show, thousands of people will hear it. And I want you to know who Brian Reisinger is. He's written a book called Land Rich, Cash Poor: My Family's Hope and the Untold Story of the Disappearing American Farmer. He's a former GOP strategist and a rural policy expert. And again, Brian Reisinger, the name of the book, Land Rich, Cash Poor. Brian, let's forward to that raid that happened near Ventura, California yesterday. A child predator was just one of the bad hombres that they got. They got 300 people nabbed at a cannabis farm in an ICE raid. You know, to me, it seems it's hard to identify who's legal and who's not legal. Is it hard? It seems like if you got 300 people that are not legal, then maybe you just have a willingness to hire the illegal. I mean, I understand if one or two IDs or one or two people slip through the crack, but 300 seems like a pretty large number of people if it was a farm that was really trying to be compliant.
Yeah. You know, I've never processed or tried to hire that many people, and so I don't know necessarily, but I think that you're hitting on a really crucial issue, which is to say we ought to be able to separate the criminal element pretty clearly from people who are here just trying to find a better way and want to do it legally. And what you saw there is, whether the cartels and the cottage industry there to conceal hiring is something that can conceal it on that scale or not, you saw that there are people who should not be in the position that they're in. One of them being that child predator, and the fact that that was rooted out is so good. But then also these children that were trafficked and that were there in that situation. They shouldn't have been there. They shouldn't have been captive to that. They should be able to be kept safe. And so there are needs and steps around the criminal activity, around the human trafficking that have to be taken. And I think that this raid shows that. This raid also demonstrates exactly what you're talking about, which is balancing how do we secure our border while making sure that you got a workforce and having farms that are following the law and able to ensure that their workforce is legal. It's crucial to be able to do all these things.
Let's say you're the farmer in Ventura, you have this cannabis farm, and let's say you do have the widespread and you have the cottage industry, you have a bunch of guys with fake IDs. The moment I start seeing children there, if I'm the owner of the farm, I'm like, okay, who are these kids? Not your nieces and nephews, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your sons. They don't come to work with you. This is a cannabis farm. It seems like maybe should be some looking into who is running this farm, because if you have that many workers and there's children there that are readily seen, it seems like somebody should have been paying attention to that.
Yeah, it seems like a good example where not only should our immigration laws be observed and enforced, but also child protection laws, fraud laws, all kinds of things. I can't speak to what was going on in a particular farm, but what I can say is that there's a host of federal and state statutes that protect against all these things, and they clearly weren't being followed. And so I think that there's obviously a change that needs to occur. And I think what farmers are hoping we can do is they're hoping that we can find a way to secure our border while allowing for the right kind of legal labor to be there through temporary work visas and things like that. It can all be much more transparent. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. The only reason we haven't done that is because Washington has for decades, no surprise here to you, Jimmy, Washington has for decades failed to roll up its sleeves and do its job. And so they're leaving us here in this position of, hey, do you want a secure border? Do you want a workforce? And it's kind of a false choice.
Yeah. Jeff has a funny question in the chat room on the Facebook. He says, is cannabis considered a fruit or a vegetable?
I've heard it called lettuce. I can't say I know how it ought to be classified between fruit and vegetable.
We're gonna go with vegetable. Anyway, I started laughing when I read that in the chat room there while you were talking. Let's kind of dive in here. Also, with these raids, there were some protesters that showed up and throwing rocks and literally trying to kill or harm these ICE agents. Just give me your thoughts on that. Again, I would like to know more about this farm. How is it that all these strangers that are protesters showed up on the premises? You got a cannabis. It seems like you're going to have some kind of a security force because of the crop that you're dealing with. And yet it just seems as if they have children running around there that were being trafficked. Protesters showed up there with weapons and rocks, etc. Do we know anything about this farm or the farming community that does cannabis? Is that different than the people that do the corn and the soybeans?
Well, I'll tell you this, growing up on the family farm that I did, even though we were a small family farm, we had tractors and other serious machinery that you don't want anyone, children, ICE, protesters, anybody running around in a chaotic situation. And so on a farm like this, a large scale farm, they've got equipment, they've got property, they have all kinds of issues. And, ICE needing to come there to enforce the law and deal with that situation is one thing. Having children running around who aren't accounted for, obviously, if they were trafficked and if they were there illegally, and then having protesters come in and not only coming to, exercise their First Amendment rights to speak out, but to actually disrupt and to try to harm officers or perhaps others as they're doing that. That's a whole lot of chaos to have on a farm that's got machinery and private property and issues that you really don't want to have because people could get hurt. And so I think it's a really unfortunate situation. Some people feel differently about different aspects of this. I think if people want to speak up, they ought to speak up, but they should do it peaceably. And they shouldn't do it in a way that's disrupting law enforcement or anybody else, especially on a farm where there can be heavy equipment and other things that can be dangerous for people.
You mentioned the cottage industry of the cartels. Is it possible? Have you heard of anything? I know that the Chinese are buying up land across America, usually near military bases. Is it possible that whoever owns this land had ties to the cartels? Have you heard of any situation like that to where cartels were actually not just the cottage industry getting the workers there, but somehow behind the scenes they were pulling the strings for the entire operation?
Well, that's a good question. And I know that when you get into the harder drug trade, the illegal drug trade, the cartels have even deeper tentacles. They've got their claws sunk into all kinds of things, including a wide range of drug operations that bring drugs up through the border and go all throughout well, every American community, but especially rural communities. We see it more and more. There's kind of a silent rural drug crisis. So I know the cartels have deep holds on that. I don't know about the the legal cannabis operations and things like that, but I do know that cartels get their claws sunk deeply into the drug trade. And here's the thing: when you think about having a border where the cartels are trafficking people as well as drugs, and where they're getting involved in the drug trade that's affecting rural communities, then you combine that with the other issue that you mentioned, Jimmy, of foreign adversaries buying up our farmland. The Chinese Communist Party or different entities with ties back to the Chinese government, they own north of 300,000 acres here in this country of our American farmland. And the amount of land owned by foreign countries has gone up by double digits in just 2 years. So these are various serious issues. The lack of security around our border, the lack of security around our farmland because of these various cartels and foreign adversaries doing different things. This is all deeply destabilizing to our rural communities, to all of our communities, and also to our food supply.
Yeah. Well, I hope the news media will do their job. They're focused on, again, the trafficked children. That's important, the ICE raids and the protests. But I'd like to know who owns this farm, what their ties are, and maybe they're just innocent bystanders that had lack of security measures on their land. But I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Brian Reisinger is my guest. He's written a book. We've talked about it before, but I will remind you again. It's called Land Rich, Cash Poor. It's his subtitle, My Family's Hope and the Untold History of the Disappearing American Farmer. Brian, unrelated to ICE raids, last time I had you on, we were talking about tariffs and the Trump tariffs and how they were going to affect the American farmer. There have been many instances in which the threat or the fear of the Trump tariffs have been overblown, and it's actually turned out better for a lot of folks and a lot of economies and the stock market, et cetera. How are the tariffs still affecting the American farmer, and have things settled down? Has the fear dissipated?
Yeah, we've seen trade deals since last time you and I talked with the UK. We've seen announcements of progress with Vietnam, India. You've been on again, off again talks with China. And, I think what we're seeing is there is an opportunity right now to make sure that we have trade deals that put family farms first. And if we can do that, we can wipe out unfair trade standards that have been screwing the American farmer and the American worker for decades. And we can open up more markets while making sure that they're fair. In the 90s and 2000s, we had freewheeling trade that was wide open and really didn't protect anybody from unfair trade standards. We can draw a harder line in some cases with tariffs and wipe out unfair trade standards while opening up more markets. There were only trade deals with 20 countries in 2022. We could have trade deals with hundreds of countries. Let's just make sure that they're fair trade deals that draw a hard line and that protect us from unfair trade standards. So we're seeing those things unfold. I think that some of the fear has dissipated. I don't think the situation has settled down, and that's because there are hundreds of countries to negotiate with, and Trump has continued that. I think it was Republicans in the 70s who first popularized it, the madman theory of foreign policy, where they don't know what you're going to do. I think he's deliberately practicing that with these tariffs too. Countries know that he's willing to slap tariffs on. They don't know whether he'll leave them on indefinitely or whether he'll negotiate, and that uncertainty is something that I think he's deliberately keeping in play here to try to make sure that you get countries continuing to come to the table. So we'll see how that plays out.
Well, going to get both of us educated. Bob jumps into the Facebook chat room and says cannabis is an herb. So there you have it. Not a fruit or vegetable. It's an herb. Thank you, Bob. We appreciate it. He said that with the munchies this morning, and he's pretty high. But other than that, he's a good guy. Bob, appreciate you letting us know that it's an herb. I'm going to take your word for it. I'm not that familiar with it. Brian, if folks want to follow you, you can tell them how to do that. And also the name of the book, Land Rich, Cash Poor. You wrote it as kind of an ode for Americans that are not in the agricultural community, especially to understand all of the plight and the hardships that the American farmland and farmers are having, especially the American family farms. Talk about the book and talk about where people can follow you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Jimmy. So we wrote the book really to try to uncover those hidden areas of history that have been driving the disappearance of our family farms. Why are we losing farms at a rate of 45,000 a year for the past century? What's the impact that it's having? And then we wove that with my family story. We tried to tell an honest story about survival from the Great Depression to today. And, I've been grateful for the response, and I'm grateful for anybody who tries to spread those issues and keep getting the word out there. You can find me on X at Brian J. Reisinger. That's Brian, Brian, J as in James, Reisinger, Reisinger. You can also find me on my website, www.brian-reisinger.com. Landrich Cash Pour is available on Amazon, anywhere else you buy books online. It's also available in bookstores nationwide. And right now, it's been out for about a year, but right now we have the paperback edition that's coming out in September on pre-order. So anybody who's interested in paperback, a little bit cheaper price point, it's out there. And I just appreciate anybody who spreads the word on these issues and has us talk about what are we going to do for securing our food supply and helping family farms make it.
We talked about tariffs before when you were on the show. We also talked about some fear and trepidation in the farming community about the effects that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Could have on the food and the food supply, maybe the farming community and the use of Roundup and chemicals. I mean, how has that settled down? Has the fear and the trepidation waned on that? Is everybody feeling good about RFK Jr.?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that people know there's an opportunity where people care more than ever where their food comes from. They care about what they're putting in their bodies and on their dinner tables. And so there's an opportunity there to create new entrepreneurial opportunity for our family farms to shift in that direction of growing more types of fruits and vegetables, specialty foods. They have more local, regional, fresh, and specialty sources of food rather than, the hyper-processed stuff that you get off our national supply chain now. So that's a good thing. What we need to make sure that we continue to do is make sure that we don't have the heavy hand of government, that we don't have the nanny state creating regulations that come in and force farms to do one thing or another. We can move toward more natural processes, more natural substances. We can move toward more fresh local food. We need to just remember that farms are small businesses. I think you see this administration trying to balance those things, that desire to capitalize on people caring where their food comes from and the need to move farms off of hard chemicals and things like that. So I think we're seeing people sort through that. And I think as long as we continue to remember that farms are small businesses and they need to be able to make natural transitions in the market, we're going to turn out okay on that.
I'll give you a story here, Brian. I know you got to go, but I went to the grocery store this past week thinking I'd be home all last week. And I had a situation of medical emergency for a family member, had to fly to Dallas with like 12 hours notice. So I took off and I had gone to the local grocery store and I bought some lemons. I'm into the citrus, lemon in the water, lime in the water. And I picked up these lemons. They were the largest lemons known to man, the size of a grapefruit. And the lady at the register said, I think these were grown with Miracle Grow. I said, there's some kind of chemical. They were giant. By the time I got home 3 nights later, those big giant lemons were molded and mushy on my counter. And I don't know if they had too much chemical or too little chemical, but I'm calling Robert F. Kennedy today reporting my lemons. I'm going to see if he can do something about it.
Well, wishing the best for your family. I hope that all sorted its way out. And, look, I mean, that we talk about this a lot where people do need to adjust and understand that when you're buying food at farmers markets and other places, it's going to be fresher. It's going to taste better. It's going to be healthier. You just may not get that massive, perfectly shaped bell pepper. It might be smaller and differently shaped. But, getting used to that, getting used to the seasonal changes. Blueberries are out of season now. Other things are coming in. Peaches are coming into season or have been in season for a while. So you get that seasonality and things like that. But, boy, sometimes when you find a piece of fruit that's, larger than life, it makes you wonder if it was grown in the ground or grown in a lab. And I think we're always better off when we make sure that whatever we're eating was grown in the ground.
I was concerned about this lemon, and then I came home, but I was like, man, that's got a lot of slices of lemon. And I came home in just a few days, it's ruined. I mean, the smaller one that I got survived, but they were mushy and moldy, and I was like, that's gross. Anyway, there's my plight. I'm calling RFK Jr. Need me to tell him anything? Let me know. I'll pass a message along.
I appreciate it, Jimmy.
Brian Reisinger, again, the name of the book, Land Rich Cash Poor. Always a pleasure to have him. Follow him on social media as well, Land Rich Cash Poor. And yeah, I bought those lemons, and I was anticipating, because I like lemons and citrus in my water. I'm trying to drink a lot more water, and it's easier to drink water when it's cold and has lemons in it. So I'm trying to hydrate more, and these lemons went bad just in the few days I was away. It's weird, very strange. All right, good to have all of you here on the program. Jimmy Lakey is my name. I want to remind you of a thing that we're doing. I want to say a plot that we're treading together. We're doing something together, and that is I'm asking for 30 people We're not quite halfway there yet, but I'm asking for 30 people that will donate one-time gift of $175 to our charity work you see over my shoulder, Rivers Promise, put a .com or .org behind that. And what we're doing is we're stocking up the desk and the school supplies for a new 5th grade classroom. Our Legacy Christian Academy in Rwanda, you can read about it, see it on the website that I just mentioned. But if you go there, we've got a new class. Every year we're adding a new class. We're up to 5th grade. We get to 6th grade, which is, they call it P6, primary 6. That will round out our primaries campus, and we'll start focusing on a high school campus later on. But I need to put desk in there. The desk, it's not a desk factory. You gotta build them, and they're great craftsmanship. And I'll show you more videos and photos of it tomorrow. But some of you over the weekend, I want to get the full list of names. I have it in the office down the hall, so I don't have it. Tomorrow I'll go through all the names that have contributed so far. $175. I'm asking for 30 people. Producer Chad, myself, Sherry Cree, everybody, a lot of folks affiliated with the show, a lot of the folks in the chat room, Roger, who's always in the chat, a lot of folks have, Rachel has kicked in some money, so our Loa, a lot of folks are helping out with this drive for desks. We need 30 desks, 30 children in that classroom. 175 buys the chair, it buys the desk, and it also provides the school supplies that are needed in that. And it could be anywhere from, remember, your kids always, your instruction paper and all the stuff you had to take for your kid, and all the kids piled it all together for the school supplies, right, in the classroom. This does all of that for all the kids. So I would appreciate it if you would please help us out. $175. If we could get to halfway point on this would be great. Some of you are going to get paid tomorrow, the 15th. Would you consider? I know we had another couple of donations come in over the weekend. I'll go through the full list of contributors and participants tomorrow, and just to say thanks. And I would like to get this done. I need 30 people that will give $175. I know we're not quite to halfway yet, so we need some more people to chip in today. And just pray, see if the good Lord leads you. Feel that little tingly, like, yeah, this is something I ought to do. $175. It is a one-time gift. I would love to have you participate. Would you make that donation? riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org, whichever one you go to, it's okay. Just make that $175 donation, and we know exactly what it's for, because it's a kind of a random amount. And some of you, if you add up, if you could include the credit card fees, I think it's like $181. If you decide to include those there's a checkbox to do that. So anyway, I appreciate you. $175. We need 30 people to do it, and we're just about halfway there. And I'd like to get it done this week and this week alone, because we got to get the money over there. Then we hire the craftsmen to come in. They set up shop at the school, and they have to. I mean, it's literally a handmade operation. It ain't Amish, it's Rwandan, and they're a beautiful desk, and we need your help. $175. Would you please help us? Again, these are kids that would not go to school if they were not for Legacy Christian Academy. They would not have access to education. Many of them would not have access to nutrition. And I can say this firmly, and I'm not being hyperbolic, many of these kids would not even be alive today if it weren't for our work with Rivers Promise and Legacy Christian Academy. So failure is not an option. Life and death depend on all the things that we do right now. And getting these kids into school, giving them the ladder, which is education, that they can climb out of the pit of extreme poverty. It's not an option to fail. We haven't failed for 18 years. We don't intend to fail now. So help us out. $175, a one-time donation. If you can help us generously. Some people, I think the most someone has done is 3 or 4 desks. I think somebody did that many. But do more than one, but do half a desk if you have to. Our Loa did half a desk, and somebody else is going to help the other half. So please, whatever you can do, riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org. All right, I mentioned Sherry just a moment ago, Sherry Creek. Got to get her on the show this week. Talk more about real estate and the real estate market, not just in Colorado, but across the nation, and the trends that are out there. Listen, if you've been contemplating, some of you say, middle summer, Jimmy, I'm not moving right now. It's a bad time. We're on vacation, whatever. I know, but some people do. You're thinking down the road. You know that your time in the market you're in, the house you're in, the neighborhood you're in, you know that there's a change coming. Why don't you strategize with somebody and have a conversation that you can start kind of figuring out, okay, if you have a 6-month time frame, it's a 12-month time frame, why don't you strategize with somebody and kind of put that plan together? A year or so ago, Sherry had somebody that called her up and said, hey, we're ready to sell. She goes, oh, I talked to you a year ago. I thought you went with someone else, another realtor. No. We took your advice and we said it wasn't time to move, and now's the time to move. I tell you the story. Sherry showed up at a going away party for somebody. She helped them sell their home. It was the second or third home she'd helped them. She'd become their realtor for life, which is what her goal is. And she was most loved and hated person at the party because all the neighbors are like, "Why did you have to sell it so quick? We wanted more time with our friends." And then the people that sold their house were moving out of state. They were very thrilled that they didn't have to languish in the house. It was done quickly. So some people wanted it to be on the market longer. The people selling the house actually were glad it sold quickly. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. She will approach that conversation or that relationship with you from a standpoint that she wants to earn the right, the privilege to be your realtor for life. She wants to help you buy this home, sell this home. She wants you to help you buy and sell the next one. She wants to earn that place in your family, and she goes up. She does everything she can to earn that trust and that support. I'll get Sherry back on the program this week. I'll get a time set up at homeswithsherry.com. Even if you're not ready to put the sign in your yard right now, even if you just want to kind of talk strategy that, hey, Sherry, if this time next year I was contemplating selling, is there something? Yes, you can start planning a year out, 6 months out. It doesn't matter. Just because you're not ready to put the sign, have a conversation with Sherry, and I think you'll feel much better about your real estate options out there. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. If you're in that I-25 corridor in the Denver area, let's say Denver, Parker, head on north up to Fort Collins. If you're in that corridor, if there's an area, by the way, outside of those areas, and she's like, you'd be better served by someone else. She has a referral service, so you can find someone in her network that she would refer you to that will take just as good a care and quality and love and concern as she does. Homeswithsherry.com. 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 Go to that website, check it out. Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. All right, we're going to run short on time. I'm not going to get to everything I want to. I do want to spend some more time on this. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, supposedly behind the scene feuding with Pam Bondi. And I want to float this out here and get your thoughts on it. We'll take a couple more moments and we'll do our meme roulette segment of the show. There is a chance, a possibility. By the way, let me first of all give good news. I have said that Pam Bondi, I think, screwed this up. I think their blank release of a memo last week that basically a lot of us viewed it as gaslighting. There's nothing to see here. We've talked about it for years, but there's no evidence. Well, you've been saying there was evidence. You've been commenting as if there was evidence, and you should apologize for the lies you told on the campaign trail. It was gaslighting. I did not agree with President Trump's necessarily scolding the reporter out there. It's an important issue. But let me give praise where praise is due, credit where credit is due. And this is a true story that happened last week while some of us were being, I guess, a little bit critical of the administration and Pam Bondi. They did something good. Look at this one. I'm going to put this up on the screen. You may have to blow it up. This is a doctor. This is a doctor by the name of they've changed all the links here. I can't see it very well. In 2020, this guy refused to inject children with the mRNA shot, the booger cootie virus vax, and he protected patients from government mandates. Evidently, he was writing up the mandate cards and saying, yeah, you got it. He was shooting the injection on the floor, putting the saline in you because he thought it was dangerous, but people had a mandate. Well, thanks to the Biden Department of Justice, this doctor, Dr. Moore, faced about 25 years in prison until now, and his trial was just beginning. I think it began last week. His trial was just beginning, and guess what? Pam Bondi said, no, we're dropping all the charges against him. This guy should be celebrated rather than prosecuted. You can see the post there. So his name is Dr. Kirk Moore. I think he's an American hero because he didn't put the toxins inside people that he knew he was harming. He kept his Hippocratic oath, and he said, I will do no harm, and I'm not going to put this vax or this booger cootie virus shot inside people. So good on Pam Bondi. Now, I do have to say, I think they really screwed this up because President Trump at that press conference last week, and God bless President Trump, he's a very smart man. Some people say he's playing 3D chess, etc. Let me play some video. This is Donald Trump going back through the years talking about Epstein. So to pretend last week at that cabinet meeting when he told the reporter it's embarrassment, it's disgrace that you're even asking about this. Well, It's not really, because you've been talking about it, Mr. President, over and over and over. Let me play this little montage of President Trump talking about Epstein Island. And evidently Trump says, no one cares about this guy. Well, evidently you cared about this guy for quite some time. Here's the video. Play it.
Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Epstein, in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you.
You really think the Clintons are involved in Jeffrey Epstein's death? I have no idea. I know he was on his plane 27 times, and he said he was on the plane 4 times. But when they checked the plane log, Bill Clinton, who was a very good friend of Epstein, he was on the plane about 27 or 28 times. So why did he say 4 times? And then the question you have to ask is, did Bill Clinton go to the island? Because Epstein had an island that was not a good place, as I understand it, and I was never there. So you have to ask, did Bill Clinton go to the island? That's the question. If you find that out, you're going to know a lot. Thank you very much.
So there's a Donald Trump making a big deal about it. Obviously, he's talking about it a lot. Even in the campaign, he talked about it a lot. But now when people ask questions about it, he gets nervous and says there's nothing to see here. I got a question for you. Either they were lying in the campaign, they had the list, they had speculation that Bill Clinton and other people went there. They were lying then, or they're lying now. And there's no other way to do that. Now, some people say I heard some speculation, and I always want to give President Trump credit where credit is due, because he's a pretty smart fella, and he's proven to be right about so many things. But I will tell you one thing, that President Trump did not have the right issue on, the right stance on, and he had to get his heart right. He doubled down on what he called Operation Warp Speed. Anybody remember when he first announced he was running for president again in the 2020 election? I don't think what year it was. He was out bragging about his first accomplishments in the first term was Operation Warp Speed and the Booger Cootie virus shot. And a lot of folks on his own flank in his own party were going, dude, that's a bad, that Booger Cootie virus. Yeah, you don't want that. And he finally noticed, it's been months since he talked about and bragged about that being some great accomplishment. So there have been times that President Trump plays what they call the 3D chess, right? He plays the 3D chess, and somehow he gets there, and you're like, wow, how did he get there? And there's sometimes that President Trump does stuff that's the antagonists out there are hyperbolic and they're just inflammatory, and tariffs are one of those things. That tariffs, his strategy on tariffs has proven to be quite successful so far. It's not quite done yet, but we'll see how it goes. So there are times that President Trump takes a lot of flack, gets a lot of criticism, even from people in his own party, and he turns out to be right. So I don't want to discount that that's possible here. Maybe there's something else going on behind the scenes. There's speculation out there that maybe they're saying this way because Ghislaine Maxwell is actually cooperating behind the scenes, trying to get her sentence reduced. I don't know. The royal family in Great Britain, the UK, they knew exactly what's going on because Prince Andrew, is persona non grata. It's not as if they didn't. They know he was on the list. And he's barely allowed to show up at the family reunion. And when he does, he has to sit at the kids' table. I mean, and then they're afraid to put him at the kids' table anymore. So it's a bad thing for these guys. I think it's been handled poorly. Maybe there's something 3D chess going on. Let me give you another example of 3D chess going on. And that it's worked out for the president. It hasn't always worked out. Did you know when he went to called it the Gulf of America instead of the Gulf of Mexico? I heard this before, but it's documented that it might have been a bit of 3D chess. Watch this little montage I found on the Instagram, proving that President Trump, as sometimes does play 3D chess. He does things. People get upset about it. They get bothered by it, and he ends up being right. I'm not discounting that couldn't be right about. There's something else going on about this Epstein stuff, but I'm doubtful. I think this is a blunder, an unforced error by the Trump administration. Watch this. This is another case in point of 3D chess. People exploded in their heads, and now you go, oh, that makes sense why you're doing it that way.
The Gulf of America instead of the Gulf of Mexico. They thought it was just him being over the top and waving the MAGA flag. But here's what really happened. Biden put in a rule before he left office saying you can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico. Pure political spite to block Trump's energy plan. So what did Trump do? He didn't argue. He didn't waste any time dealing with the courts. He simply changed the name. Now it's Gulf of America. And guess what? Biden's rule doesn't say a word about drilling in the Gulf of America. While the media and all you keyboard warriors mocked him, he played 4D chess. And once again, he won.
So there you have it. He calls it 4D chess, 3D chess. Maybe that's the case, my friends. But I also want to remind you that there have been times that President Trump doubled down on a policy in his administration that he had to kind of back down. And I'll use the fact of Operation Warp Speed would be one of those. So I don't know exactly what's going on. It's going to be a very interesting week to tell what's happening here. Does Bongino show back at work today? There was a story that I guess Matt Gaetz, who was Donald Trump's original appointee, nominee to be the attorney general, there would be that he was supposed to be at a Turning Point conference in Florida, I believe, or Oklahoma, wherever they were having a Turning Point conference with Charlie Kirk, and he was rerouted up to D.C. to meet with the president. That supposedly happened over the weekend. Is he trying to maybe put Matt Gaetz in somewhere? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I mentioned this yesterday, that one of the ways the Trump administration can kind of back their way out of this is say, okay, we don't have the evidence we think we had. It's not whatever, but we're going to put a special prosecutor, a special counsel on this thing. And maybe Matt Gaetz could fulfill that role, a special counsel appointed by the White House. There's ways to dig out of this, but I believe if he doesn't dig out of this and change course, it's not just going to hurt him with his base. Ultimately, I had several conversations yesterday, random people, and this was a topic that was brought up. I met a brand new friend last evening with producer Patel, who we're calling producer Chad today. One of the first things out of his mouth was about the Epstein files. So I think it's a blunder and it's an unforced error. And I think there are some ways out of this, and a special prosecutor, special counsel could be it. But again, it's languished on for so long, and you have statute of limitation. They need to get the files out there. And why not just release all the files? And say, well, we don't want to we don't want to harm the victims. The victims of this who are out there, they're known, have said, no, we want these names to be known. So you're not going to harm the victims. You're harming the victims more by keeping it all quiet. So keep a sharp eye on this. This is going to be a very telling week. Is Trump playing 3D, 4D chess? Maybe. But he also, there has been instances in which he banked on a topic that everybody would follow him and celebrate Operation Warp Speed. And he found out the hard way. He effed around and found out that the base, his MAGA base, was not buying this crap about the booger cootie virus and a little effort, Dr. Fauci and all that stuff. So he's been right more than he's been wrong, but there have been times in which Donald Trump had to kind of walk back some support or some topic like that. And again, I'm not looking for him to throw Pam Bondi under the bus, although I think Pam Bondi's made a bungle of this and nonsense. The fact that they put out a memo with no signature on it last weekend is scary to me. They should have put a memo out. She should have held a press conference. She should have. I mean, there's ways that they could have presented this that probably would have been a hell of a lot more palatable than the way they have presented this. And I think Donald Trump is going to have to, and hopefully this weekend, spend some time, some navel gazing, if you will, some soul searching and finding out how to dig out of this. And again, I know some people say he's Trump. He can do no wrong. Listen, I didn't join a cult. I appreciate the guy. But I called him out, and I disagreed when he was talking about Operation Warp Speed all the time. And I think this is another one. I have to call him out and say they got to get this thing right. Now, General Flynn. But remember General Flynn, he was originally appointed in the Trump administration. They came out, prosecuted him, bankrupted his family, really tried to go after him. General Mike Flynn yesterday tweeted this on the X. He X'd it out, or he tweeted it out. And he tagged directly. He put a period in front of it. It means he's talking to Donald Trump. And here's what he said. Donald Trump, please understand the Epstein affair is not going away. If the administration doesn't address the massive number of unanswered questions about Epstein, especially the abuse of children by elites, it's very clear that abuse occurred. I mean, Giselle Maxwell's in jail for it, right? Prince Andrew's not even probably even allowed in the Buckingham Palace. I mean, he's just, there's been some bad stuff happen here, and everybody knows that. So Michael Flynn says, especially the abuse of children, it's very clear that abuse occurred. Then moving forward on so many other monumental challenges our nation is facing will become much harder. President Trump, if you don't backtrack here and figure out what you can do to answer the questions that are unanswered by many Americans, questions that you yourself raised, sir, about the Epstein and the Clintons and the files and all that stuff. You've raised these questions before. If you don't try to get an answer for this, then moving forward with your monumental agenda is going to be harder. Michael Flynn says trust was deeply violated by Joe Biden and Barack Obama, so violated that your administration must be above reproach. He is a Bible verse. Anyone who causes the little ones to stumble, it would be better to have a millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned than in the depths of the sea. And Michael Flynn concludes and says, we cannot allow pedophiles to get away. I don't personally care who they are or what elite, powerful position they hold. They must be exposed and held accountable. Now, evidently, this is another tweet that Michael Flynn commented on. There was an alert that Glenn Beck has filed a Freedom of Information Act request for all of Dan Bongino's texts and emails regarding Jeffrey Epstein that were sent to Pam Bondi. So Glenn Beck says, let's get a FOIA out there and find out the Freedom of Information Act. And General Flynn says, well, let's see how transparent this administration truly is. So this is not an issue that's going to go away for President Trump. They have to find some kind of a resolution, and we'll see what Bongino does. And Roger says, I'm a huge General Flynn fan. They screwed him royally. He took too long to turn on Clapper and Brennan. Flynn speaks the truth. And I agree. Michael Flynn speaks the truth. And for him to speak up, I'm sure it'd be easy to be a little bit gun shy, getting back in the fray after all they did to him. And I'm telling you, they're going to have to do something. Bondi has really screwed up the PR aspect of these Epstein files. And there's something there. We know there's something there because Prince Andrew's been punished. Giselle's in jail. And yet you can't come out and say there's nothing to see here. So we'll continue the conversation this week. We'll know more, I'm sure. But this is something that I think the administration is going to have to get right. And I'm willing to give the administration credit on 3D chess. And boy, they're outsmarting all their opponents. And they've done a lot of that on tariffs, etc. But I'm also not willing to forget that they also were trying to screw up the bragging rights of Operation Warp Speed, and that was a real boondoggle and a bad thing, and thankfully he stopped bragging about it. I don't think he would have become the nominee had he not backed away for his braggadocious love for Operation Warp Speed and the Booger Cootie virus shot. I don't think he would have become president because that was a dividing line. People were very bothered by it and feel like they had been lied to by the FDA, the little effer, Dr. Scarf, they've been lied to. And this is the thing. We're now in an atmosphere where people just feel lied to. You were lied to about COVID, 6-foot social distancing, the Booger Cootie virus shots. You were lied to about shutting the schools down. You were lied to about wearing a face mask all the time. Some of you still look like jackasses wearing those face masks. Stop it. Knock it off. It's not helping you at all. There's all these stupid things that we've been lied to, and now we find out for 60 years the government was lying to us about the JFK assassination. Those files are out there, and for some reason we should be ticked off and looking for accountability even 60 years later, but nobody seems to care that what we had happened 60 years ago with JFK, we were lied to, and it was a coup attempt. It was an intelligence coup. It was a black stain in the history of America. And I think this Epstein file could be the same way. So again, the government that lied to you about Fauci, the government that lied to you about Dr. Scarf, Dr. Birx, that lied to you about the Booger Cooties, they lied to you about pharma, they lied to you about all these things. It's really tough to believe that all of a sudden they come out and say there's nothing to see in these files, because for years we've been told there was something to see in these files. All right. We'll find out. We'll find out indeed what happens. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be back in Colorado where we base our operations from. Glad to be back here. Got in last evening and was invited to Chef Patel's house, Producer Patel. That's what we call Producer Chad, as he made butter chicken and naan bread, and I found it quite delightful. Thank you very much. I even ate my broccoli. There was broccoli available. I ate my broccoli. His sons, I had to hassle them. They were not eating their broccoli, and I didn't convince them, but I tried. I tried to do the right thing because I try to channel the spirit of RFK Jr. anytime I can. Eat your broccoli. Yeah. All right. Good to have you here. Don't forget, I'm looking for 30 people. 30 people. that will donate a one-time gift of $175 to Rivers Promise. You see the name over my shoulder. Just put a .org or a .com after that. And $175, we're stocking up our 5th grade classroom that will begin class in a few weeks. Starts in early August. We got to get all the desks built, and I need your help to do that. It's riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. If you can do more than one desk, that's fine. It's the desk, it's the chair to fill up that 5th grade classroom for 30 kids. And also it helps us get some of the supplies to start off the school year. There's always an ample bunch of supplies that have to be purchased to make that classroom really functional. And the education we're giving these kids is epic. It's top notch. We've already started testing in our area. We've been to one of the top schools in our area. Our goal is to become one of the top schools in the nation. We won't be able to compete on that level for the most part until we get through our 6th grade class, or what we call primary 6. And so we need your help to do this. And $175, a one-time gift. Would you help us? I'm putting in, I'll probably do more than that, but so far you can count on me for one desk. Producer Patel, producer Chad's in for one desk, him and his wife. Roger just commented he and his wife are in on this thing. Sherry Cree's in on. A lot of you are in it. Rachel, I'm going from memory, and I'll go through the full list tomorrow. Maybe we'll put it across the screen. But thank you. From the bottom of my heart, these kids would not be in school if it were not for you and I. There are no tax dollars that we can access in Rwanda to build desks. It's literally, we make it happen, or these kids don't go to school. And I'm going to make sure that it happens, and I hope you'll make sure it happens as well. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Make that one-time gift of $175. I know some of you did that over the weekend. I've got a list of those people, the people that did it last week. And then I know some of you, I'll be honest, some of you get paid on the 15th. I get it. And if that's you, don't forget riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. And $175 one-time gift. I need 30 people to do it. And tomorrow I'll give you the full list and the update on where we are at in that. All right. We got the meme roulette coming up. Okay, we got share. Let's do it. Meme roulette. I had to look at my list to make sure I wasn't missing too many important things on the show, and I wasn't. I think we covered a lot of it. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. We're too cheap and non-creative. We steal these. We just steal them outright from people, and we're sorry if you. Yeah, we stole it. My teenager said, "You don't know what it's like to be me." You're right, buddy. I've never cried over a Wi-Fi outage while wearing a $200 pair of shoes I didn't pay for. How many of you ever want to tell your little shaver that before? You don't know what it's like to be me as a teenager. Yeah. $200 shoes you didn't pay for. The Wi-Fi's out. Cry me a river. Little jackwagon. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here is a little image. I know this is tough for those of you listening to the audio version of the show. Lady says, "I'm sorry, sir. It looks like your luggage is too heavy to fit on the plane." He's at the desk of the check-in. You'll have to remove some of your items and put them in your carry-on, which is also going on the same plane. Anybody ever had this exercise? I had this exercise. My son was traveling. We were traveling to Africa, I think, last year. Whenever we were going, he's going somewhere. And one bag was about 5 pounds over, and one bag was about 10 pounds under. And guess what? He had to, and my son travels with more shoes than Imelda Marcos. He likes his shoes, and look up Imelda Marcos if you don't get that reference. He had to take shoes out of one bag and put them in the other bag because he was about 3 to 5 pounds off. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, a lot of sense. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. It's from the Babylon Bee. Now we know we steal it from this. There's Speaker Mike Johnson. Republicans unveil a debt plan, transfer balance to Capital One credit card with 0% interest and APR. And we were considered that balance transfers, 0 interest for 12 months. Maybe we should do that with our national debt now. Thinking Capital One, please call the government. They need help. They need the help. I wonder if we get points for that too. Can you get miles? How many miles are you going to get? Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. There's a couple sitting at their therapist's office. Therapist says, "Your wife says you never buy her flowers. Is that true?" And he says, "Well, to be honest, I never knew she sold flowers." You never buy her flowers. Well, I didn't know she was selling flowers. I'd buy some if I knew she was selling them. How many of you men would say, "I'd buy her if I knew she had a business. I'd be buying her flowers all the time." Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. A homeless man's sign said, "I could One day it could be you. So I decided to keep my damn dollar just in case that MFR is right. Well, one day this could be you. Well, hell, I'm keeping my buck. I got to save up for a rainy day there, buddy. Might not have been the best marketing tool the homeless dude had. Let's see if we have any more memes. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. All right, I was anticipating. Maybe it'll show up tomorrow. There is a meme that's lurking around. I think it's at the censor's desk. I think Delilah's trying to approve it, but she won't approve it. But it's about crayon colors. I'll see if producer tomorrow. We'll see if we can do the crayon colors. There's a new crayon color out there. I saw it and I spewed coffee. I'm warning you, if we do that one tomorrow, you're going to have coffee coming through your nostrils, and our Loa's going to go, oh, vapors, I don't know what they're going to. The ladies are going to be offended, and the men out there are going to go, that's funny. That's funny. Because you guys are sick and wrong and twisted. All right, 175. Who's going to do the 175? I'd love to have your help. I need 30 people to do it. $175. Buy a desk for a fifth grader. And again, I'll show you some videos from the classroom tomorrow. And we need your help to do this. $30, 30 kids. We got to get it. By the way, if you want to sponsor the kids, we still need sponsors of kids. You can go to our website, riverspromise.org. Find a child you can sponsor, but also $175, a one-time gift. Helps us stock up that fifth grade classroom so we can start class here in a few weeks. And we got to get it in quickly, because they have to build the desk. We have to build them by hand craftsmanship, and they're really fantastic desks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our program today. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. Don't forget homeswithsherry.com, the wonderful Sherry Cree. Great sponsor of the program. We'll get her on the program this week. Also going to reach out to our friend Joshua Lewis, Lehman Lewis Financial, see if we can get him on the program this week to talk about the markets and the tariffs. There's more. The tariffs are coming due, and the markets don't seem to be reacting as volatile now that President Trump has proven that he kind of knows what he's doing on these tariffs. We'll talk all about that this week. What say you? Is General Flynn right when it comes to the Pam Bondi comments on the Epstein list? Is Donald Trump going to have to face this and deal with it? I think he is. I think this is a blunder if they don't get a hold of this thing. Don't forget, go to all of your platforms out there, Spotify, iHeartMedia, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Download this show and listen to it. That way, if you ever miss a live version, you can hear the audio-only version. This episode that you're just hearing will now be up on audio version immediately following the program. Until we meet again tomorrow on this Monday, glorious day the Lord has made in 2025. I am Jimmy Lakey. To all of you, I say thanks for tuning in today, and thanks for listening throughout the day. Thousands of ear holes will be hearing what we're doing today, and I appreciate all of you. Until we meet tomorrow, God bless you. God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.